Hello, developers, writers, and everyone who loves game design.
Welcome to DLC Not Included, our weekly podcast where we discuss game development, the industry, and everything in between.
We're your hosts, Steele
and Teal. Glad you could join us.
All right, so we are now at the season finale for season 1 of our podcast revival.
This has been a lot of fun, but also a learning experience.
Yes, so we've learned a lot about what to do, what not to do, how to fix things in editing, how to prepare a presentation properly.
Yeah.
All right, so we wanted to end season 1 on a very high level positive note of how you can avoid the most dangerous thing for a developer, because season 1 is about being a developer.
Yes, it is.
What's our topic?
So we felt that avoiding burnout by pacing yourself was a very good topic to wind this up.
Exactly.
Burnout. Oh boy.
Because burnout is the anathema of a indie developer.
Yes.
Any developer, really.
Burnout, of course, we found is one of the biggest reason that game projects fail.
Yes, and to define burnout, not using Merriam-Webster this time, but just the generic, is when you no longer have any internal motivation, regardless of external factors, to continue a project.
Yeah.
This is a holistic approach, by the way, to getting your project done. This is not going to go over project management. This is not going to go over techniques. This builds on all of those foundations.
Right. This topic will assume that you have at least a working knowledge of project planning.
And if you've been listening to us for the entirety of season 1, then you'll understand where we're coming from.
Yeah.
So why did we choose this topic, Teal? Because that's the biggest reason. People fail, projects fail because of burnout.
Right.
It very rarely is it, all the stars align against you, or, every now and then it'll be because of lack of funding or team misdirection. I mean, those things happen.
Those things do happen.
But if you're an indie or a solo dev,
Ooh.
the number one reason your project fails is burnout.
Yeah. So burnout will occur for 2 reasons.
What 2 reasons do we have?
Right. Well, first is, honestly, it's what we all suffer from. Constant and unyielding activity with no recreation.
Right. So that means
I'm guilty of that, by the way.
All work and no play?
Yeah.
All work and no play.
I am guilty of that.
Yes. And then you also will have periods of inactivity. That's not doing anything for your project, followed by periods of unhealthy levels of activity. And we'll get to what that means later. It means like unnecessary, detrimental, crunch. And how that affects you and how to avoid that is going to be one of our subtopics today.
Yeah. I call it binging.
Yeah, you call it binging. I call it
binging, yeah.
In the industry, it's literally called crunch. The crunch time, the infamous, I'm air quoting, crunch time.
Yes.
It leads to that. It's an unhealthy level of activity, regardless of how productive it is.
So let's talk a little bit more about burnout.
Okay, let's talk
first of all, I just want to mention that feeling overwhelmed is natural.
Right. It's not the same.
Okay. Being overwhelmed is not the same as burnout.
Right. We all feel overwhelmed, even with a strong project plan. You're going to sometimes feel, oh my gosh, I have way too much to do. You have like too few really big tasks. You're like 5 really big tasks.
Yeah.
Which is like map all your levels, do all your code, make all your graphics. You're going to miss something. And then when you go back and you realized, crap, I just did all of this map stuff, but I'm only actually 60% done.
Yeah.
Because I didn't project plan properly. And then that hits the overwhelming.
Yep.
And that can lead.
It can lead to burnout.
That can lead to burnout.
Yeah.
But there's an inverse to that, isn't there?
Yes.
Having those, 5 really massive tasks. What's the inverse, Teal?
Having a lot of little tasks.
Yes, and by lot we
mean huge amount.
Right, like
an entire bag full
of tiny little tasks, because then psychologically you go, oh no, I have too much to do.
Yeah, I've got to do this and this and this. Yeah.
So it's part of, and you'll get when we get to the pacing yourself portion, subtopic.
Yeah.
Too many little tasks, too few big tasks. Can lead to problems. You got to find that happy medium.
You've got to.
And a lot of that goes into the project planning that we've spoken of in the past.
Many, many times.
Right.
Yeah. Proper planning.
Yes. Proper prior planning prevents performance.
Right. Because, I honestly, if you suffer from burnout, it will negatively affect every single one of your future projects.
Right. Once you hit burnout on a project,
Yeah.
overcoming that negative emotion is extremely difficult.
Yeah.
So anyone who is listening to the podcast live or listening to this on VOD, if you've ever suffered any level of burnout, you'll know picking yourself back up after you burn out is extremely difficult.
Yeah, it is.
Extremely hard. So, unfortunately, that is the negative part. Now, let's talk about how to avoid burnout.
Well, we want to avoid burnout.
Yeah, burnout.
We want to avoid that because we want you to get your projects out.
Right. Those games that you guys are creating, those things that we want you all to do, where you apply all the knowledge that Studio Blue and other developer YouTubers and podcasters, all that advice people give you, that plethora of advice isn't going to help you if you burn out. So let's talk about how you can pace yourself. Okay. We're going to give you a bunch of tasks, a bunch of ideas, right?
Okay, so we're going to give you ideas, and you can use one or all of these in tandem. You don't have to just pick one and stick with it.
Right.
You can move back and forth between these various ideas.
Absolutely. The first one is, think of it like a marathon. So we call it marathon
running. Yeah.
Right. Marathons. So let's kind of draw the analogy. If you've ever run like a 10K or whatnot, you build up your endurance while you're training, and then when you start off slow. No marathon runner worth of salt sprints out the starting gate.
No, that's the key. You got to start off slow.
Right. So when you're marathon running your projects, start off slow. Start at a slow pace. Start at a pace that you might look at if you're self-critical and go, I'm going too slow. Because you're not going too slow. You're going at a pace you can manage.
You want to reach a manageable pace, in other words. So you start off slow.
Right.
You reach a manageable pace.
Right.
So you're going along.
Right. What that means is this. Let's say that you're working your 8-hour project day. We'll just say, for the sake of saying, it's 8 hours. You get to the end-ish of that day. And you go, okay, so I have just finished, 7 hours, 45 minutes worth of work. My next task is going to take about 30, 45 minutes. Do not do that little bit more.
No, don't do it.
That is the opposite of pacing yourself. Because when you do a little bit more, it easily turns into
a lot.
And we've all been there. I've been there where I've started working on something and I've maybe had a few minutes before stopping time.
Yeah.
And I've gone, you know what? I got a few more minutes. Let me just take that little extra step. And unfortunately, it can turn into a lot more. And then that can contribute to burnout.
Yes, it can.
It's okay to clock out. People have this, especially here in high energy countries like the United States, where it's pull yourself up by the bootstraps. Not to dog on my country, but there is that whole pull yourself up by the bootstraps.
Yeah, go.
Right.
If you're not moving, you're not producing.
Right. And that's okay. It's okay. It's okay to move until it's time to stop moving and then go do something fun.
Right. So, at the end of your day, just go ahead, complete that current little sequence that you're doing, whether it's a line of code or it's a part of a scene or texturing.
Right.
Just, complete what you're doing right now, and then stop.
Slowly stop.
Yeah.
And if you start getting overworked, which is going to happen, especially when you near the end of your project.
Oh, yeah.
Especially if you're part of a team where everyone's relying on you, that whole cascade waterfall or agile management, either one really can lead to a crunch, I say with air quotes. It's okay to throttle back. Pull it back. Pull back, please. If you're the lead design for your project, let your team know, hey, I'm overworking myself. I know we're probably going to miss our deadline. We're going to have to push back launch by a month. But it's either that or I'm pushing myself so hard that I'm going to either burn out or the project's going to lack in quality.
Yeah.
Which I guess it's another thing, really. Burnout can lead to a drop in quality.
Absolutely, it can. Oh, yeah.
So follow that end of day, know when to stop, and move slowly. If you only get one task done a day, but it's a good task,
then be happy. You've done it. You're that much closer to finishing your game, and you're not killing yourself, killing your family, or killing the game.
Right. Caveat, we're not talking about game jam games. If you're making a game for a
That's
contest,
different.
that's totally different.
Yeah.
The point of that
Different
is
animal.
to push the hell out of yourself, whether it's 24 hours, 48 hours, a week, a month, to push the hell out of yourself to stretch your limits as a developer. We're not talking about that.
No.
So, what is our next one?
Okay, so, we talked about marathon running, but let's also talk about another technique, is re-goaling.
Now, how does re-goaling work? Because in project management, we've both dealt with this.
Yeah, this is typical for us. But for our listeners, re-goaling is, first of all, to re-goal, you break your project task into monthly, weekly, daily, hourly tasks. But to re-goal, you will adjust these goals at the end of each week.
So, for example, let's talk about if you were going to build a real complex level. That has multiple, really complex map that's multi-tiered on, vertical that goes up and down, giant tower.
Yes,
giant,
that's a good one.
Scalable tower. There we go. And you would go ahead over the course, let's say it's a 3-week project to make this massive super level. Maybe it's a final dungeon. Okay. And you start following your plan. And then after that first week, Teal looks at it and goes, okay, I had to spend extra time this week building up the foundation, the shell, that all the decorations are going to go in. And I haven't even started the lighting, which I was supposed to be halfway done by the end of the week. Teal would re-goal by saying, okay, so now 3 weeks are out of the question. It will force me to crunch myself. And then she would say, okay, I'm going to give an extra week for lighting. And then after that, she finishes her lighting on time. Then she could say, okay, can I make the next 2 weeks or not? So that's how you would re-goal, right?
Re-goal, yes, that's exactly it. You use these re-goals to generate your next set of goals, which is exactly what you mentioned in your example. Right.
And people who don't understand re-goaling see it as a worker's version of moving the goalpost, which I know that's a debate thing, but they see it as you're moving your goalpost, you're making an excuse for bad work ethics, and that's not the case.
That's not the case with re-goaling. No.
We are assuming you're putting in the amount of work per day that you have scheduled. So if you've done 4 days, 4 days, 4 hours a day goes on my game design project. We're assuming with re-goaling that you're following that. And if you're not, then re-goaling is not for you. You need to motivate yourself. A little different. Like if you're only doing different. 2 hours of work, that kind of thing. So laziness is not an excuse.
It's important during re-goaling that you stop at around the same time each day. Okay, that's pretty important. So if you have a 4-hour day and you start at noon and end at 4. Make sure you end around 4. Okay? Don't end at 5, 6, 3. End at 4.
Honestly, for every single one of these that we're going to give you, including marathon running, it's really good to have a routine start day and a routine start and a routine end time. I always start my day at 7 and I always end no matter what at 4. That is when my day ends. I will only go to beyond that if I'm getting the stream ready for the night. But that to me is a different thing than my normal work day. That's our stream. But I start my day at 7 and end my day at 4. Teal, you're a little different because of your work schedule, but it's the same concept.
I generally start my day at 9 and end at 6.
There you go. So be consistent. Consistency is super key.
Yes, it is. Because if you're not consistent, you run the risk of overworking yourself,
and that would burn out. There's an out though. There is a positive if you start to get overworked.
If you recognize you're getting overworked, or a family member mentions you're getting overworked,
right, or team member, spouse,
instantly re-goal.
Instantly.
That is your signal. That you need to re-goal.
If you find that you're going beyond, you're feeling overworked, you're tired all the time, you're cranky, you're starting to lose sleep or whatever, or someone in your family or someone close to you says, hey, Haas, you're overworked. Stop everything. Even if you have to spend a whole day, re-goal. Start to finish. Now,
so that is re-goaling, and it actually works really well with marathoning.
It does. Now, I'm gonna go to the next one because this one
this is Steele's favorite.
This was actually taught to me by Teal, who learned it from someone else.
Yes.
And this has become Steele's personal mantra. but I have the personality that loves this.
Yeah.
Okay, here we go. It's called the 90-minute sprint. And you're like, wait, isn't that completely counterintuitive? Steel, we just talked about marathon running. Different animal. Here we go. In a 90-minute sprint, you separate each project piece into a 2-hour block.
Yeah.
So, for example, let's say I'm working on the map of a mansion.
Yeah.
And I have it set up so that, okay, right now I'm in the foyer. Eventually I'll move to the landing for the second floor. But this right now is my main piece of mansion map. You work on it for 90 minutes.
Straight.
Without break. As hard as humanly possible. I will only get up to go to the bathroom. So for 90 minutes, I map the hell out of that mansion. Particle effects, lighting, whatever in my organization chart, in my GDD, and in my project plan, I have to do to map that sucker out. At 90 minutes, I save my file and I stop completely. The sprint ends. And then you take a 30-minute break doing something other than work. Watch TV, play a video game, read. Something recreational that is not work-related at all.
That's right.
And what it does is it resets your brain. Then after that 30 minutes, you take another 2-hour block of something completely different.
Yes.
And you work on it for 90 minutes straight. Then you take a 30-minute break. And you repeat until the day is over. You do not overwork. That is as important as the others, but super important with a sprint because you're going to be going hectic.
Yeah.
And that's it. You repeat till the day's over, call it for a day, done. Let's go ahead and give that example we wrote.
All right. So here's a good example that we came up with. Task number 1 in sprinting. You write some of the game script for chapter 1.
2 hours down.
Okay. 90 minutes, done. You write some of that game script. Then you take your 30-minute break. Watching YouTube videos.
Right.
Then you get back to it. Task number 2. You rig a humanoid character model.
Another 2 hours. 30-minute break.
Then 30-minute break.
Right.
Then you get back to it. Task number 3. You design part of the current level in development.
90 minutes, and then a 30-minute break, another 2 hours.
And then your last task for the day, you mastering the audio for the game.
And then you take that 30-minute break, and that 30-minute break is your wind down.
It's a wind down.
And then you're done for the day. I do, by the way, that was 8 hours of work.
That's 8 hours of work.
Day.
You just did an 8-hour work day.
Yeah. For me, after task 2, my 30-minute break is a quick lunch. And you don't want to take a lingering long lunch when you're doing these sprints.
No, you do not.
Another day of mine would be like, my first sprint would be working on a highlight video for the last few critical plays we've done. Then I'd take a break. Then the next one would be mastering the audio and collecting the visuals for a short form. Then it would be, working on YouTube and Twitch affiliates.
Yeah. With a 30-minute break, yeah.
With a 30-minute break, right. And then the final task of the day would be something along the lines of answering emails, working on the administrative tasks of Studio Blue.
Right.
All of those are just things that I do during the day, and prior to my surgery, that was massive amounts of productivity.
Yeah.
Now, not every person's going to want to do marathon running. Not every person's going to want to do 90-minute sprints. You got to pick the one that works for you. Really, in all 3 cases, evaluate your pace, every single milestone of your project.
Absolutely.
Even every week if needed, right? Yeah.
Weekly is actually pretty common. It's our mindset is pretty much set to weekly.
Right.
So, you can do it weekly.
And then adjust as
needed. Yeah.
So if you're like, this isn't really working for me, I'm trying to do marathon running and regoaling, and I find that I don't quite have the stamina for that. I need to give myself more controlled blocks. Try 90-minute sprint.
Try the 90-minute sprint.
But move it around and adjust and use whatever combination of these 3 work for you. The whole idea is to not overwork, to have a definitive start and stop time, and to recognize when you're pushing yourself too hard and readjust so that you don't burn out. Because creating a video game is years of commitment.
Yes.
Again, game jam and small little fun projects aside, making a full-scale video game can take years.
But here's something I want to bring up.
Of course, honey.
Don't think of it in years.
No, don't.
Think
ever.
of it in months.
Yes.
Always break up your. This is really good advice I got.
Yes.
A while back from a management mentor of mine. He says, don't think of a long-term project is 3 years. It's a 3-year project. think of it as a 36-month project.
100%. When we started shifting our minds to that, we found we were getting exponentially better work done.
Yes, we were.
Because, and again, it's all psychological. We are hardwired to think in terms of weeks as being short, months being manageable, and years being completely unmanageable.
Yes.
So when you think in terms of years, you automatically put yourself at a psychological disadvantage. But when you think in terms of months and break them down into weeks, suddenly it becomes exceedingly more manageable.
And you find you're getting a lot done, and before you know it, your project is near completion.
Yeah.
And it's amazing.
And as we've talked about in this season before, there is nothing as sublimely wonderful as when your game goes gold.
Yeah.
That is such a good feeling.
Yes, it is.
Okay, so now that we've talked about this, we're going to talk about sabotaging yourself. Okay, I know that we're wanting to end the topic on the season on a positive note, but we cannot address pacing yourself and avoiding burnout without addressing self-sabotage.
Yes.
Because nothing in the world is going to sabotage you better than yourself. There's no funding issue, there's no team issue, there's no community issue that can devastate you as much as yourself.
So yeah, this is like the major pitfall to all this.
Right.
One way to stop the sabotage is think of your project, your milestones in terms of bytes and bits.
Right.
Not chunks and pieces.
Chunks and pieces, nice big meaty chunks. The more bigger your chunks are, the more you're going to start feeling it overwhelmed. So you want to think in little bites, little tiny bites.
Right, because the smaller bits matter. They add up over time.
Right. So you're like, oh gosh, I have to rig this character. And rigging, if anyone's ever done it, is a nightmare.
Yeah.
Screw weight painting. But you look at it in terms of, okay, first I'm going to build the skeleton structure. Then I'm going to put the skeleton structure and I'm going to look at how the model works with it. Then I'm going to rig one arm. Then I'm going to rig another arm. Then a leg. Then another leg. Torso, neck. Bit by bit by bit.
Right.
Tiny bit. Then you start weight painting. I'm going to do it with one arm. Then another. Then a leg. Then a leg. Then a torso. Then the neck. Tiny little bite-sized pieces.
Yes.
They add up, and suddenly you have a rigged model ready for animation.
Yeah, you do.
And it's a wonderful, wonderful feeling. We've said this before. We're going to say it again. Do not try to do a whole lot over a long period of time without a break.
Right. I do want to say something before you move on to that, though. I just had a brainstorm just now.
Okay, what is it?
It's called reframing.
Oh, yes.
Reframing your thinking.
Yeah.
So you reframe things in months, not years.
Yeah.
You reframe things in bits, not chunks.
There you go.
So think about that. Ponder that. Reframing.
Yeah, reframing the mindset of, instead of thinking it in one way that can sabotage you or cause you to feel overworked, burnout, etc., think of it in another way. And people talk all the time and make fun of the power of positive thinking, but there is a thing called mindset.
Yes.
And if you approach something from a mindset that lends itself to positivity, it actually does get easier.
It certainly does.
It's not going to fix all your problems. Good thoughts alone aren't going to make your game happen.
No, we don't.
But it helps, especially if you're a solo dev. Okay, so let's go back to the point I was making.
The point you were making about stopping trying to do this whole lot of stuff over a long period of time.
I am going to map out my massive forest over the course of 3 days, working 14 hours a day.
Yeah.
Don't do it. Avoid that.
With no breaks.
No breaks. I'm
going to have somebody serve me my dinner underneath the door like I'm in a cell. Don't do that.
No, you want to avoid that, what do we call it? That type of development?
That's a long-term sprint.
Right.
Please don't. That's not what a sprint is, guys. No.
And we've had people do it, and we've had people in the community talk about it. People who we genuinely respect, and we're like, oh, that person's going to burn out.
They're going to burn out bad.
I have this weekend free, and I'm going to work the whole weekend on this map. Don't do it. Because then it's going to be about 2 weeks before you work on your game again.
Yep, it is. Yeah. You're going to be so burnt and overwhelmed.
Best piece of advice ever given to me from a writing standpoint can be applied to game development. You're going to get better and accomplish more if you write 500 words a day, as many days as you can, than 6,000 words on the weekend.
Yeah. Oh, gosh, yeah.
Yeah. So same thing with game development. Those goals. Let's talk about them goals. Them hot goals.
So you want to keep your date relevant goals in monthly sets instead of weekly sets.
Right. Think of weekly as the task accomplishing the big goals.
But a task is just a part of reaching a goal.
Yes.
Your goals will be monthly goals.
Right. And remember, monthly, not yearly.
Yeah.
This game will be ready in 24 months, not 2 years. This game will be ready in 36 months, not 3 years.
Because if you keep your goals monthly, you'll free up, you'll feel a lot better. Your state of mind will be a lot freer.
Right. If you push yourself on just weekly, remember how we talked about regoaling earlier?
Yes.
You'll start to fret if the end of the week comes and you haven't done everything.
We've seen some comments here in our chat occasionally of people who are fretting because they haven't gotten anything done, and they've been working on this this week, blah blah blah.
So if you give yourself a month to make the final dungeon tower, as opposed to a week to get the lighting and foundation both of the final dungeon tower, then you're okay. You've got a whole month to finish the dungeon.
Right.
And you can re-goal your weeks as you need to. And if it goes over that month, by the time you get to the end of the month, you're in a much better frame of mind because you will have accomplished things.
Absolutely.
Again, psychology.
And it's okay to play catch up in week 2, where you feel a little bit behind in week 1, because you will catch up, you'll get it done, and then you'll have a sense of accomplishment.
Right. Putting unnecessary psychological burden on yourself, and a necessary goal burden is a really good way to burn out, to sabotage yourself, and to basically ruin yourself.
Yeah.
I know we're all our worst critics. I am my worst critic. However, there has to be a point where you go, I can only do so much in one day.
Yeah.
And as long as I am getting it done, and as long as during that time period I'm awake, I get something done that moves my project forward, that's it.
Yeah.
That's it.
You have forward momentum. Yeah.
Most importantly, this is the golden rule. If you take nothing else out of today's podcast, remember to take breaks.
Those breaks are so important for recentering yourself, relaxing your mind, and getting prepared for the next goal, the next task, the next sprint.
So if you're listening to this, whether it be live or VOD, and you know that you don't take breaks, start doing it now.
Yeah.
Take a break when this is over with. Take a break.
Take a break.
Take a rest.
Oh, but remember to come back for your breaks.
Right, to come back for those breaks. Yeah, I'm going to take a break. 7 hours later, that was a really good break. No, that's...
Whoops.
Timers help.
Yeah.
I put my Echo Dot on a timer every single time I go on a break.
Yeah.
I'll be like, Amazon, give me a 30-minute timer.
Yeah.
And then as soon as I hear, I'm like, okay, time to go back to work still.
And I use my phone.
Yeah.
I have timers on my phone, so I do that.
Straight up. So hopefully this has helped you guys, because this is burnout will kill your project, but pacing yourself, setting realistic goals, re-goaling, and finding a technique that works for you will keep that from happening, and your project will get done.
Absolutely.
All right, so
and we'll see more games out of you.
Yeah, more games. So now it's time for us to take questions from our live audience.
If you've been watching, remember to use that podcast question feature in our chat.
And we already have one that was written in advance.
Yeah! This is from KV Kingdom.
All right.
When you were talking about sprints, you mentioned breaking tasks into certain time quantities. One thing I have struggled with, both in game development and other parts of life, is gauging how long a task will take. What are some strategies for helping to determine how long a task will take?
Okay, let me field this since this is about the sprints.
Yes.
So your question is actually, while it's a valid question, you're asking about the wrong thing. In a 90-minute sprint, you do not consider how long it's going to take. You work full steam, 150% on that, whatever it is, for 90 minutes. Whether you get part of it done, a fraction of it done, or all of it done is irrelevant. You're working on that piece, that bit, for a full 90 minutes. So to answer your question, I have to pull away from 90-minute sprints. Do you want to field this, or you want me to field it?
Let me take a crack at this, because gauging how long it takes to a task will take. that is something that you come up with when you're coming up with your project plan. And a good way to, if you have no idea how long a task will take, is to do some research online with what others have published about how long a task will take. Believe me, somebody out there has done it.
Right.
You're not the first person. This is not the wheel to be invented. Somebody out there has done it. Somebody has published it. So all you have to do is just put in the search bar, how long does such and such task take? You'll come up with data.
Yeah.
And you can just aggregate that data into something that you feel is manageable for you.
For example, let's say that you're going to make a fantasy castle. You can Google level design or speedrun fantasy castle or whatnot.
Yeah.
And you can look at either a YouTube video or an article or a Reddit post where someone said, yeah, hey, it took me, 20 hours. And you can kind of use that to a starting benchmark. Not everyone's going to have a white paper. Not everyone's going to have an official paper written by a professor.
Right.
But other people's experiences, I think that's the big thing, is look at other people's experiences on something similar to give you a benchmark. But if you're working on those sprints, it doesn't matter how much you get done.
It doesn't matter. The sprints are 90 minutes.
And then you stop.
Of working on something, then you stop.
You pick it
take
up
your break, and then work on something else for 90 minutes.
And then pick up that sucker the next day.
Yeah.
Until it's done.
So that is how the sprints work.
Yes. Okay, we have another question.
This is from Slimisky the 2.
All right.
Any extra tips on how to deal with burnout during after jams? The last 2 jams I entered, I ended up getting immensely burnt out to the point I didn't open RPG Maker for over a year.
Oh, I am sorry to hear that.
Wow. Yeah. Game jams are an intense animal. Not going to lie.
Not going to lie. The best thing that I can offer before, Teal, if I may. First off, approach the game jam not as a project, but as a learning experience. A lot of people go to game jams trying to make a game. And they're like, I'm going to make this game. Because they want their game to either wow the audience, they want their game to be played on stream by the judges so they can see the judges' reactions, or they create their game jam game hoping to win the contest.
Right.
All 3 of those are the wrong reason. You enter a game jam and to push yourself as a developer, to learn new skills and new ways of doing things. The one that Komodo is doing right now is all about pushing yourself and the engine to the limits.
Yes, it is.
So that's the first thing. And I'm not saying you're doing that, Slim. I'm just saying that always approach a game jam as pushing yourself, not anything else.
Okay. Now, to address the burnout.
Right.
Okay. This is all about, for a game jam, it's all about, I would say, sprints. The sprints and taking those breaks.
Yes.
So, obviously, you're going to map out your game ahead of time, doing a little project planning. Then you're going to break up your task, do 90-minute sprints.
Right.
30-minute break.
Right.
90-minute sprint. 30-minute break.
Right.
And that is that I feel, that's just my feeling, my take on this, that you will survive a game jam by doing that.
Now, if you get burnt out, because we are going to actually address the second part of the question.
Yes.
If you actually find that you're getting burnt out, we'll talk about if you see it coming and then if it's already happened.
Okay.
If you see burnout coming, stop. Take a day off.
Yes, please.
Even if you don't get your game out the way you want, even if you never place because the game crashes, it's better that you don't burn out. Take a day off.
Yeah.
Know when to stop for at least a while.
Because let me just say this. I don't want to see a game jam destroy a potential developer.
100%.
No, don't let that happen.
Yeah. Now, having said that, if, despite your best efforts, it happens.
It does.
And it does. It does. We're all human. What you want to do is move away from that engine and do something else creative for a couple of months. Write a short story. Do role play by email. As weird as it sounds. Do something in another engine for a while.
Yeah.
Do something creative that is not
pottery.
Yeah.
Yeah, with your hands. Work with your hands. But woodworking, pottery.
Take your phone,
crafting,
which has an amazing camera, and go out and take pictures.
Yes, photography.
Do photography because we are all hardwired with two halves of our brain, left and right. The right side's the creative, the left side's the logical. And when you burn out, the left side overcompensates for the right side.
Yeah.
And then the right side overcompensates for the left side. In other words, it's kind of like wires crossing.
Mm-hmm.
You know, your creative side is sitting here trying to make up for your left side not able to keep up with the planning. And your left side is trying to push your right side, your creativity, beyond its limits. I'm not a neurologist. I pulled that out of my butt, but it sounds good. But the thing is this, though. When you go and you do something else for a while, something else creative, you push aside that piece, that thing, whatever it was that caused you to burn out.
Yeah.
Whenever I start burning out, and I do, you know, despite everything, I pick up a book and I read a book. And I do not do anything else other than read. Or if it was writing related, I'll go and do some photography. I mentioned that because I like to take little amateur photography. You know, I do a lot of the ones where you know, you get like the natural life, and then you have the depth of field, so it's blurry in the background, and there's a squirrel with a nut going, "The hell, dude? Why are you taking a picture of me, you weirdo?" You know, that kind of stuff.
Yeah.
And I'll do that for a while. So do something other than what burns you out.
Yeah.
I would say a month or two. Give yourself some time. Give your brain time to reset.
A rest. Mm-hmm.
Yeah. And then when you're ready, then revisit it. That is a very good question that we were able to split up into a number of talking points.
Yeah.
Thank you so much for that, Slim.
Thank you. That's a good question.
Let's see if we have any others coming our way. How do you deal with it?
What I do is I step away from the computer completely. Mm-hmm. I'll do some crafting. As you know, I like to do weaving.
Yes.
I make little pot holders.
Little pot holders. They're so cute, guys.
I used to like to paint, but I don't have my painting tools set up. So I have colored pencils that I color.
Yeah.
You know,
color.
I color.
Another thing that you want to do is you want to do pottery. We just don't have we need to have a pottery station.
Yeah, just a little station somewhere.
To do pottery.
But I just love like making little pots.
Yes.
So yeah.
But yeah, so find something that you enjoy doing that's creative and completely unrelated to what burns you out.
Right.
I'd actually be interested in hearing from our audience. We're not going to actually see it, but you know, I'd like to hear them. You know, what do people, or if you're watching this on VOD,
throw out ideas and comments. You know, what do you do to get away from the burnout? To step away? What sort of activities do you do?
Yeah, what creative thing would you like to do? So if you're listening to us live, please pop it into chat. We always look at our chats afterwards,
right?
And if you're watching this on VOD, like YouTube or iHeart or whatever, pop in a comment.
Yeah,
let us know.
Because your comment will spark somebody else into thinking, oh yeah. You know, I can get into that.
Yeah. All right, so I'm not seeing any more questions, so I think we're going to start wrapping this up.
Okay.
If one pops up while we're giving our end of podcast spiel, we'll answer it.
Sure, absolutely.
But let's talk about what's happening.
Okay.
We're done with season 1.
Yes.
We have completed this.
We've wrapped it up.
20th episode. Season 1 was about being an indie dev.
Yeah.
Season 2, which we will take a break before doing, is about actual development side of things. We're going to tackle things like your level designing, spatial design, color theory, stuff we've talked about before. Lighting, so important. But we're going to take a break. About how long?
I'm thinking 4 to 6 weeks.
Right.
That'll give us a chance to decompress, avoid burnout, and plan for the next season.
So we will pick up near the end of July, middle of August. Mm-hmm. However, we're going to want your feedback. If you're live, we're going to be talking to you all after this podcast a little bit about this. And if you're listening to this on VOD, please pop a comment.
Yes.
Whether it be like iHeart, Spotify, pop a comment there. If you're watching this on YouTube, absolutely go into the comment section.
Yes, please. And
let us know, 1, what you think, and 2, what you would like to see in our podcast. Not just topics. Do we need to have more energy, less energy? Do we need to bring
presentation?
Do
you want to see anything different in our presentation?
Right. Do you want to see more banter, less banter, more disagreement, less disagreement? Give us all the comments in the world about how you feel we could make this podcast as good for you as possible.
Right.
So I think we're good.
Yeah.
I want to thank each and every one of you. For the past 20 episodes, you all have been amazingly supportive, both live and on VOD. You all have gotten us all over the place. We're on iHeartRadio, Spotify, iTunes, Amazon Music, YouTube, of course. And y'all have shown a tremendous amount of support.
And not only that, but you've also suggested topics to us.
Yeah.
And we've been able to incorporate those suggestions into our podcast. So thank you for that.
Yeah, you guys have made the revival of this podcast into something that Teal and I truly enjoy.
Yeah.
All right, so we're going to go ahead and get going. We want to thank you all once again for listening. And join us next time for DLC Not Included, everyone. And remember,
anyone can give you the key, but you have to go through the door.